All right, we had a question come in through the forum that was really good. It's about NCD and LCDs. Now, with just that acronym, you're not going to know what that is. National Coverage Determination and Local Coverage Determination. What are they and how are they used? It's actually, not as difficult as you think to understand them, but it is a little confusing because it's not something you think about too awful much. The national coverage determinations and the local coverage determinations are decisions by Medicare and their administrative contractors that provide coverage for information and determine whether services are reasonable and necessary on certain services offered by participating providers. Now, I had a little breakdown of the the steps that you get a national coverage. It starts out with the preliminary discussions there. You can see that in that box. And then it goes, well, what's the benefit category? National coverage request. Staff reviews it. They get a draft going. They get external assessments. They have an advisory committee, which, right, those two words right there tell you what kind of a process that is. Public comments, they have staff reviews, they come up finally with a final decision, and they have appeals boards if that doesn't go through, and then it can go through reconsideration and all the way back to the discussions again. And look, this one little area right here takes 9 months. Can take 9 months. So, it's not something that is done quickly. Local coverage determinations. Here's a slide that I picked up from another presentation, and this was strictly for vestibular and auditory testing. Now, Novitas, First Coast, Palmetto, and I think that's called Noridian. These are payers. And when we were down in Texas, Palmetto was the provider for Medicare down there. But this is them talking about what they'll cover. And local coverages, their determinations run, let's see, they currently exist in the United States for this vestibular and auditory testing, this Novitas, and those covered under Novitas have a local coverage determination. So it's not that big group of people, it's a local group that's done geographically. First Coast in Florida, they do, let's see, I'm not going to be able to say these. You guys know I stumble on some of these words, but this is where they test the eardrum. They also have a vestibular testing along local coverage determination. Then this one for, the code exists for Palmetto and Noridian. Now, I did pull up a website, and I don't know if this link is going to work for us, but let's just see. It is AACE.com. But let me check and see if it's going to come up. And there it is. Okay, I actually just went out and Googled this. NCDs and LCD is what I put in the Google search. And this came up from an organization that actually gave you step-by-step what it means from, what are they? What's the difference between the two? What's the difference between the local coverage determination and the LMRP, which is a review policy, and then just in more detail. So what I would advise you to do, if you are still confused about what they are, go ahead and just Google that. Again, this is the American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists that did this particular write-up for their people. And you can get more information. Not that big of a deal. What's nationally covered and what's covered locally in your search. And this